Hello my lovelies, it is time for my September wrap-up vlog, so stay tuned. So it is Sunday, September 5th, and I have completed 2 books, though I'm kind of behind schedule right now. I have completed 2. So on Thursday the 2nd, I completed Yellow Wife by Sadika Johnson. And this is set in, gosh, what year? 1850 is when it begins in Charles City, Virginia, on the Bell Plantation. And, well, it's a historical fiction about a woman named Phoebe, or I should say in the beginning it's a girl named Phoebe. She's 17 years old, and she is the daughter of a slave and the slave's master. And the master, he very much favors Phoebe because, well, it's his daughter. And he promises when she turns 18 that she will be free, and he's going to send her off to this boarding school and all of that. And the master's wife really doesn't like Phoebe because, well, she's the master's child with another woman. And so she's very, very hard on Phoebe. And when the master and Phoebe's mother go away for a couple of months and things happen while he's gone, the wife ends up sending Phoebe to prison, or to a prison in South Carolina, I think. I can't remember where exactly. But anyway, she sends her off to, no, Richmond, Virginia, I believe it is. Anyway, she sends her to this prison where she's to be sold off as a fancy lady or whatever. And the owner of the prison, he takes a liking to her, and she essentially becomes his yellow wife. She's not really his wife, but kind of plays the part, though she's still a slave, and she's forced to prepare other women for the auction and do a lot of things she's not very proud of in order to stay safe and stay alive and to protect her children. And this is such an amazing story, and reading the afterwards or acknowledgements or whatever, the author's note, it actually says that it was inspired by the story of Mary Lumpkin and Lumpkin's jail in Richmond, Virginia. And there's a lot of truth to this. Granted, it is fiction, it's all made up, but there's a lot pulled from what really happened. And this was a really, really moving story. It was very frustrating at times. I felt so bad for these characters, and oh yeah, I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. Next up, on Friday the 3rd, I completed Night Books by J.A. White, and I freaking loved this book so much. It's sort of a spooky Arabian Nights retelling, but that's not the only retelling to this. But I can't really say what the other retelling is without spoilers. But this follows a boy named Alex who gets lured into this magical apartment by a witch and gets trapped there. And in his time there, he's forced to tell the witch stories. Well, more like he's having to tell the apartment stories. The apartment likes scary stories, and they have run out of new stories. And he has books upon books of scary stories because that's the kind of thing that he likes. He has these things he calls his night books. He has nightmares, and when he wakes up, he writes them down. He makes stories out of them. Throughout this, we get to hear his stories, and he tells a new one each night from his night books. Much like Arabian Nights, to keep himself living a day longer, he's having to tell these stories from his night books while he's supposed to be writing new ones. And instead of writing new ones, he's busy searching this massive library for clues on how to get out of this magical apartment because all the doors seem to disappear. And there are other characters. There's a cat, a very interesting giant cat that doesn't really have claws, has fingers that come out, which is very interesting. But I loved this so much. It's bookish, it's fun, it's a little bit spooky. Not a lot spooky, but a little bit spooky. There's some creepy things in here. It is middle grade, and I'm gonna give this 5 stars. I absolutely loved it, and I highly recommend it. It is Monday, September 6th, and I have completed one more book, and as you can tell, I also changed my hair color. So I have a bright orange hair now. So surprise. So the one more book that I have completed is The Inexplicable Logic of My Life by Benjamin Alire-Sanese, and I give this 4 stars. It's a little bit of a slice of life where a lot of people's life kind of sucks. Our main character, Sal, he's in his senior year, and you know, he's worrying about colleges and his friends and his dad, but he also feels like he's a bit of a ticking time bomb. He keeps getting into fights, and he's worried that this might have something to do with who his biological father is, because he doesn't know his biological father. Sal is a white boy that has been raised in a Mexican family by a single gay Mexican man. And Sal's father, he is amazing. He is my new favorite book dad. He really is the best, and he's very kind and caring and insightful and thoughtful and giving and caring, and he is like the dad, and he's like everybody's dad in this book too. Sal has 2 best friends, and one of them, Samantha, she has a lot of family issues. Her mom struggles with alcohol and drugs, and her mom is a single mom. Sam has a love-hate relationship with her mother, and it's a lot of hate. They don't get along at all. She calls her mom by her first name. But she is determined to make good grades and do well in school and get into a great college. And she's like urging Sal to, you know, do the college things too. Sal's other best friend, Fido, he's also being raised by a single mother who has a serious drug problem. Fido has struggled his entire life. He is raising himself. He works 3 jobs so that he can save up money for him to go off to college. And he just works really, really hard. And they all are kind of going through their own issues. And Sal, his grandmother, who he's very, very close to, she has cancer and is not doing well. And there's just a lot going on, and there's a lot of grief and healing and love and hate. There's a lot of hate that's being thrown at Fido, who is also a gay boy, and also Sal's father because he's gay, and there's bigotry. But the core of this is love and caring and healing, and I give it 4 stars. It is a Tuesday, September 7th, and I've completed one more book. I finished The Neverlist by Kothi Zan, and this I'm going to give 4 stars. This is a bit of a psychological thriller. It follows a group of girls, or women, I just smacked myself in the face. It follows 3 women, essentially, who years ago were kidnapped and held in a cellar and tortured for years. And when they finally got free, The man responsible went to prison for kidnapping them, though they felt he needed to go to prison for a lot more because there was another girl involved, and she got brought upstairs one day and never came down. And they know that she was murdered, but nobody could find a body, so he didn't get punished for murder. He just got punished for the 3 kidnappings. And it's now 10 years later and he's up for parole. And these women, they've all struggled in their own ways over the past 10 years with dealing with everything that they went through and being in the normal world again. And with him coming up for parole, they're kind of forced to face things that they didn't really want to face. And one of them, the main character, it's her best friend that was murdered, and she's just like, I have to know where her body is. I have to find her. I want to lay her to rest. I want her to be at peace. And he's been sending these cryptic letters to all 3 women, and she believes that there's information in there that he's trying to convey, and she takes it upon herself to go and search for clues, follow leads, and try to dig up more than the FBI was able to, and find her friend's body and make the man responsible pay for what he actually did. And in the process, they learn it was a lot bigger than just the man that held them captive, and they find themselves in trouble. This was really, really good. I very much enjoyed it, and I give it 4 stars. So it is Friday, September 10th, and I have completed 1 more book. I finished Yellow Brick War by Danielle Page. This was a reread for me. This is like the 3rd time I've read this series. This is book 3 in the actual series, not including the novellas and all of that. I thoroughly enjoy reading this every time. I can't really say too much about this because it is the 3rd book, but I can say that there's a trip back to Kansas in this book, and Amy has to try to find Dorothy's original shoes. So much fun. 5 stars. So it is Sunday, September 12th, and I've completed 1 more book. I have finished The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. This I'm going to give 4.5 stars. It follows, well, multiple perspectives. We have 3 main perspectives. We have Grace Salter, Rosina Suarez, and Aaron DeLillo. And Grace is new to town. She's just moved into this house, and she finds these carvings in her wall of her new bedroom saying things like, I'd rather be dead and help me and things like that. And she's very moved by this. And Grace has moved here because her family kind of got shunned from where they used to live, and her mom is like a pastor or a preacher or something like that, and she had an accident. She fell off a horse, she hit her head, she had this enlightenment or whatever, and became a much more liberal pastor or preacher or whatever in a very conservative town. And the point that she married a gay couple was pretty much the point that the church in the town wanted nothing else to do with her, and they were not only kicked out of the church but shunned from the whole community. So that's why they've moved here. When Grace finds this stuff, she learns that the girl that had this bedroom before her name was Lucy, and Lucy has also gotten essentially run out of town by people that didn't believe a story that Lucy told. We also get a little bit of Lucy's perspective in here as well. Lucy, she was gang raped by football stars, a couple of them, and they got her really drunk and they had their way with her. And then when she told people what happened and she went to the police and all of that, nobody believed her. And or people believed her, but nobody really wanted to believe her. So they chose to not. And instead of her getting the help she needed and the justice that was deserved, she was ridiculed and called a slut and bullied, and they had to leave town because she just couldn't deal with this. And then we have Rosina, who is a queer punk girl in a conservative Mexican immigrant family. And her mother do not get along. Her grandmother's immigration status is meh. And she was one of the only people that stood up for Lucy when all of this happened before, and spit in the boy's face, which got her in trouble with the school. And then there is Erin, who is best friends with Rosina. And Erin, it says she's obsessed with two things: marine biology and Star Trek The Next Generation. I freaking loved all of the Star Trek references in here. I thought it was great. That was so much fun because I like Star Trek a lot. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. Erin is also on the spectrum. She has Asperger's, and she has issues with, you know, acting a certain way or speaking a certain way, and trying to find that happy medium where people don't think she's weird or whatever. And she's also fairly new to this area. She moved there, I think, a couple of years prior, after I think her 13-year-old self went through something very traumatic, and they needed to start over somewhere new. And throughout this, there are a lot of perspectives of other girls. They're not like the full like chapters or whatever. These chapters are kind of separated by Grace, Rosina, and Erin's chapters. But there are like little segments of other people's perspectives, other girls that have gone through something, or they've gotten, or they're just enjoying being very sexual, or they, it's just the perspective of how girls are perceived and how they're perceiving sex and all of that. And also there's like this awful blog by the real men of Prescott High that is totally pushing for the positive of rape culture, and it's awful. And they talk disgusting about the girls, and the girls are fed up with it, and they create this group called the Nowhere Girls, and they boycott any sexual anything with the boys of Prescott High until the ones responsible for what happened to Lucy are brought to justice. And I give this 4.5 stars because in the end, there are a couple of people that I would have liked to have seen brought to justice as well and get what they deserve, and that just didn't happen. But yeah, really enjoyed this. Give it 4.5 stars. So it is Monday, September 13th, and I have completed one more book. Yesterday I finished the graphic novel Jem and the Holograms, Showtime. This is volume 1, and I have to say I absolutely freaking love this, and I need the second one like right now. This is essentially a reboot or revamp of Jem and the Holograms. So that was a cartoon, and I looked up the dates to see exactly when it was. That was a cartoon that was on from 1985 to 1988. And I was a kid watching this when it was on air, and I absolutely loved Jem and the Holograms. I had the dolls, I had the car, I had the backstage, I had a lot of Jem and the Hologram stuff, and she was just so cool. And they're like this all-girl rock band, and they have essentially like this holographic computer kind of thing named Synergy. She's an AI thing that her our main character, Jerica, her father created and he left to them. They are all sisters, and Synergy can create these very realistic holograms. And Jerica, she doesn't really, she's very stage fright, shy kind of thing, and she kind of just chokes when she gets on stage. So she creates Jim, a holograph, like she makes herself look like Jim. And then when she is Jim, she has no problem getting up there and performing. And in this, they are trying to get into this battle of the bands that's hosted by the Misfits. And the Misfits are another all-girl rock and roll kind of band. Whereas Jim and the Holograms are more, you know, positive and a little poppy or whatever. The Misfits are more hard and rough and angry lyrics. And they're hosting this competition where somebody gets to go up and compete against the Misfits, and Jim and the Holograms get to be that person, though the Misfits are sure they're gonna wipe the floor with whoever competes against them. But they actually are concerned about Jim and the Holograms because they're pretty good and people seem to really like them. This was so much fun. I 100% could see this all playing out in my head. I could hear the voices of the Jim characters. I love this so much. As I said, this is a reboot, a revamp of it because this was done in 2015. So they made it more modern without really changing drastic things. So there's like Twitter and YouTube and cell phones. I don't know if this was something in the original thing. I'm guessing not because this was back in the 1980s. But we do have some queer characters in here, which I absolutely adore. And I like Kimber. She's the younger of the sisters. She is queer, and so is one of the girls in the Misfits, and it's so great. Anyway, I give this 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. So it is Thursday, September 16th, and I have completed 2 more books. So on Tuesday the 14th, I finished The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher, and I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. It was interesting. It follows this woman who, her grandmother has passed away, and her father has asked her to go clean out the grandmother's house so that they could sell it or whatever. And grandmother was a hoarder, and it's pretty ridiculous. But she goes and she's going through all the stuff and realizes that her step-grandfather has left a journal there, and she starts reading the journal, and it seems kind of like the ravings of a madman, where he's going off about the grandmother. He talks about sleeping in the woods. He starts referring to this place that shouldn't exist but does. And our main character, she happens to stumble upon this place that shouldn't exist but does. And there are creepy monster things that are staring at her through her window, and she's really freaking out. And the step-grandfather, he has mentioned these monster things. She calls them effigies. They are definitely not natural. They seem to be made out of bones and sticks and things like that. And they're staring at her through her window. Anyway, there's mention of fairies in here. Our main character, she's a book editor, so there's like a little bit of a bookish element to it. Very little. I enjoyed it. It was weird. And I'm going to give it a 3.5. And I will tell you about the other one in just a second because my battery's flashing, so I'll be right back. Okay, sorry if you hear a lot of crinkling sounds. Einstein decided that he was going to play with one of his toys that makes like the crackly bag sound directly under me. So there's that. Okay, so the next book that I completed was The Hive by Barry Lyga and Morgan Baden. And this is a slightly futuristic world. This book came out in September of 2019, and there's a president in here that he has a different name, but it very much embodies President Trump. Like, you might not notice it quite as much as if you're physically reading it, but if you're listening to the audiobook, oh yeah, it 100% embodies President Trump, or former President Trump. And in this world, Trump has won the re-election, or not Trump, but the president has won the re-election, and he's coming to the end of his second term. And there's this thing that is called the Hive, where the internet essentially is policing itself. The people of the internet are policing it. And if you say something that people like, you're trending positive. But if you say something that people don't like, instead of just likes and dislikes, you also can get contempts. And when you have enough contempts, or like your ratio from contempts to likes or something, there's more contempts, you become a level 1. So there are 5 levels, and at each level there's a corresponding degree of punishment and an amount of time that this punishment can be placed on the person. So for example, a teenage boy whose girlfriend broke up with him, and then he spread some rumors online about her, he would end up being a level 1, and a level 1 is getting punished for just 1 day. They only have 24 hours of punishment. After that, they can't mess with him. And his punishment was like having trash thrown at him because he was throwing trash about her online. The higher up in the levels you go, the more dangerous, or the worse the punishments will be, and the longer amount of time people have to come after you. Also, you can't like get rid of your phone. People can track you by your phone. They get notified if you're close, if there's somebody that's a level whatever, they get notified so people can join these hive mobs and come after them. Hashtag Hive Justice. And like a level 4, they're looking at like 6 months that people can come after them. But a level 5, that's gonna be like, terrible things can happen. They can get kidnapped, they can be tortured, all kinds of stuff. And people have an entire year for this. And our main character, she is a 17-year-old high school student. She's in her senior year, and she's had to move because her father passed away. And so she's at a new school. She gets involved with the popular girls in this school, and they edge her on to post this kind of off-colored joke about the president's new grandbaby. They're all commenting about how the mom is so pretty, thinking like, you know, Ivanka Trump, and then the child is just ugly and it looks like the president. And she makes this joke online, and it's a crude joke, but it's something along the lines of, too bad the abortion didn't take. It's not a nice joke. However, it was just a joke. It was just a comment somebody put out into this virtual world, and it blew up. It went viral, and very, very quickly she's become a level 1, and by the end of the day she's a level 2, and she's kind of freaking out a little bit. And then her mother wakes her up in the middle of the night because her phone has gone off. She is now at a level 5, and the mob is now hunting her. And things get even more crazy when this mysterious level 6 suddenly appears, and she is the first and only person ever to be put as a level 6, which has an infinite timeline and orders to kill on sight just for making a stupid joke. and this is social media out of control. And it was a lot of fun. It was a really good story. I almost would have given this a 5-star if this had been like the first book in a series. I think this would have been a 5-star read for me. The only thing that keeps it from being a 5-star read is the end. It's a very open-ended ending, and I was just like, literally when I finished it, I shook the book because I was just like, no, what? And I had to go on Goodreads just to double check that yes, this is a standalone and I'm not going to get all of the ending. I'm not going to get it all wrapped up nice and neat where I wanted it. And for me, the way it left me hanging, I'm giving it 4 stars. So it is Saturday, September 18th, and I've completed 2 more books. So yesterday I finished Frankly in Love by David Yoon, and I'm going to give this 4 stars. It's definitely not a 5-star book for me because initially in the beginning I almost considered DNFing it because I wasn't jiving with the writing style, but it seemed like the writing style improved as it went on. I had fun with the story. There were really cute parts, there were really sad parts. It was a good time, and yeah, I'm gonna give this 4 stars. This follows a boy named Frank Lee, who is a Korean American, and his Korean parents, they're essentially very, very racist against everybody except for Koreans. Not just one race, all of them except for Koreans. And they expect their children to date nothing but Koreans. And Frank and his sister Hannah, they're kind of these in-betweens because they don't feel fully Korean, they don't feel fully American. There's a group of these Korean families that all came over to America around the same time, and once a month they get together for a thing they call the gathering, and they have dinner at each other's house, and all the kids are around the same age, and they call themselves the Limbos because they're in this weird in-between. And Frank's sister Hannah, she essentially has been disowned by her family because she got involved with a black man. And it doesn't matter that she was an excellent student and went to college and went to law school and became this successful lawyer. She got involved with somebody that wasn't Korean, and she's been disowned by the family, and nobody speaks to her except for Frank. And well, Frank, he has a thing for this white girl named Britt Means, and he knows that his parents will not accept her, and he doesn't want to be disowned too. So he's discussing this with the Limbos, or with one of the Limbos, a girl named Joy, who currently is dating a Chinese boy, but her parents also don't know about it because they wouldn't approve either. And they hatch this plan to fake date each other so that their parents will get off their back because they'll be happy that they're dating a Korean person. And so Frank will go and pick up Joy, and their parents are all happy and everything, and then Frank will drop off Joy with her boyfriend Woo, and then he'll go pick up Britt and they'll have their date. But all this fake dating stuff, it gets really, really complicated. Plus there's all the family issues going on as well, where Frank's dad, he finds out he is not well, and well, he has cancer. So trigger warnings for that. And there was a lot of dealing with the realization that, you know, what's going on, and that he doesn't have a lot of time left and all of that. This was, like I said, a really good story. There were some really cute parts in it that just melted my heart, and I really enjoyed it. And so I'm going to give this 4 stars. And then today I have finished Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This was a reread for me. The first time I read it many years ago, it was a 5-star read for me. I physically read it back then. This time I decided to listen to the audiobook, I still really enjoyed it. I think, I don't know, it wasn't a 5-star for me this time. It was a 4-star, but I still very, very much enjoyed it. This follows a kid named Wade Watts who lives in this world where most people live in a virtual world called the Oasis. A man named James Halliday created this, and it's this amazing place, but when James Halliday passed away, he left this Easter egg in the game. It requires you to find 3 keys and 3 gates, and the person that finds this Easter egg inherits everything of James Halliday, including the Oasis and all his money and everything. And years go by without anybody finding any clues until one day Wade finds the first clue, or figures out the first clue, and it kind of fast tracks the rest of this search for the Easter egg. And in addition to, like, you know, everybody is searching for this Easter egg, there's also this group, they're called the Sixes, and they are searching for the Easter egg for this corporation. They want to monetize the Oasis, where James Halliday, when he created the Oasis, the only thing that it costs for you to play is 25 cents for a lifetime, and that's it. And the Sixes, they want to commercialize a lot of it. They want to charge a monthly fee for the Oasis, all of that, and nobody wants them to win the Easter egg. And this is what this is all about, and it was so much fun. Also, there's an insane amount of 80s references in here, which I absolutely adored. But yeah, this, like I said, this was a lot of fun. Was it a 5-star for me this time? No, it wasn't. Maybe it was because it was a reread and I already knew what was coming, but I still loved it and I give it 4 stars. So it is Sunday, September 19th, and I've completed one more book. Last night I finished By the Book by Amanda Sellette. This was so much fun. It was super cute. It was very bookish. It's about a girl named Mary who has gone to a very small school her whole life, and now she's going to have to go to this new public school, and it's in the same town, but she knows a very small amount of people. And when she goes to this new school, the person that she thought was her best friend completely shuns her, and she's kind of forced to step out of her box and make new friends. And one day she's in this really cute little bookstore, and she meets these 3 girls who start talking about this boy. And Mary has met this boy before. Mary knows what kind of boy, or believes she knows what kind of boy this boy is, based on boys from like the Jane Austen era and Tolstoy. And she convinces these girls to leave him alone. He is no good. He is just gonna break your heart. And they all become friends and create this scoundrel survivalist. That is until Mary finds herself falling for the very boy that she's warned her friends against. And it was super cute. So many bookish references. There's even an appendix in the back with all of the works cited throughout, and like what part of the story it was referring to and which book. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and I'm gonna give this 4 stars. So it is Monday, September 20th, and I've completed one more book. Today I finished The Shadow Queen by C.J. Redwine, and I can't believe I've waited so long to read this. I loved it. It's 5 stars. This is a Snow White retelling, and it was so much fun. I definitely think if you're fans of the Cursebreaker series by Bridget Kimmerer, you're going to love this. Also, if you're fans of the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, I think you'd enjoy this as well. But I can definitely see, as far as Cursebreakers go, our main character, Lorelai, she very much was giving me like Harper vibes, and our kind of love interest in here, His name is Cole. He is the king of Elder and sort of the queen's huntsman. He very much reminds me of Ren, and then the queen, Irina, she gives me Lilith vibes. So yeah, and I loved the Cursebreaker series, so yeah, this was fun. So Lorelai, her mom and dad were the king and queen of Ravenspire, and her aunt Irina killed the entire royal family pretty much, and thought that she had also killed Lorelai and her brother, but they managed to escape, and they've been kind of Robin Hooding it around the kingdom and stealing from Queen Irina and giving it to these families in need, because Ravenspire is suffering. Ravenspire is dying. Its people are starving. The land is literally dying, and Lorelai has been training and preparing to go and confront Irina and reclaim her kingdom. And Cole is the king of Elder, and he's just acquired this title because his parents and his oldest brother, who was the heir to the throne, they've all been killed by these ogres. And the only thing that can stop these ogres is powerful magic, and they do not have this kind of magic in Elder. The only one that they know of that has this kind of magic is Queen Irina and that line of family. So he goes to Ravenspire to ask the queen for help, and the queen has discovered that Lorelai and her brother are alive, and she is hunting them down, and she wants Cole to act as her huntsman and hunt down and kill Lorelai and bring her his heart, or bring her Lorelai's heart. Also, to just throw it in there, Cole has two hearts. The warriors of Elder, they have a human heart and a dragon heart, and they can transform into dragons. So this was a lot of fun. I really, really loved it. I cannot wait to continue the series. I give this 5 stars. So it is Tuesday, September 21st, and I've already completed one more book, but it's very small. That is As You Like It, a Shakespeare story by Andrew Matthews and Tony Ross. This is sort of like a kid's illustrated version of Shakespeare's As You Like It. I very much enjoyed this one. I've never read the play, but I get a good idea of how it goes. It makes me want to read the play, and for that I'm going to give this 4 stars. We have Duke Sr., who is banished from the kingdom by his brother Duke Frederick, and Duke Sr. and everybody, like all of his men and his family, have all moved to the Forest of Arden and are living happily there. Though they did leave behind his daughter Rosalind, because Frederick's daughter Cecilia loves Rosalind and wanted to keep her as a playmate, so they've stayed together, they've grown up together, and they're great friends. But Frederick's not happy with Rosalind because as they've gotten older, Rosalind's beauty has outshone Cecilia, and he's just looking for a reason to get rid of her. So when the son of his enemy shows up for this competition, his name is Orlando, and Rosalind takes a liking to him and talks with him, Frederick banishes Rosalind. And so Cecilia and Rosalind run away together, and Rosalind has cut off her hair. She's making herself look like a boy. They both go by different names, and they go on search of Duke Sr., but they're not able to find him. They end up renting a cabin by the edge of the woods, and they're happily living there as brother and sister, until one day they stumble across Orlando, and Orlando doesn't realize this is Rosalind. He thinks it's some boy, and Rosalind just kind of plays along and tests her acting skills, and she tells him that she can help him get over being lovesick. And so she is pretending to be a boy, and then when she's helping Orlando get over being love struck, she's pretending to be Rosalind. So she's Rosalind pretending to be this boy, pretending to be Rosalind. And what's even funnier is that in Elizabethan time, all the actors were played by boys or men. And it says here in the back when it kind of discusses it, it says all female parts were acted by young boys. So in the scenes between Ganymede, which is the name Rosalind was going by as a boy, and Orlando, the actor playing Ganymede / Rosalind was a boy pretending to be a girl who was pretending to be a boy pretending to be a girl. This was so much fun, lighthearted, comedic. It was a good time. It was definitely one of his lighter works for sure. No big tragedies happened in this. So, 4 stars. It is Thursday, September 23rd, and I have completed one more book. I finished Fence Volume 1 by C.S. Paquette, Joanna the Mad, and Joanna Laflonet. I don't know. Anyway, this one I'm only going to give 3 stars. Nothing really happened. This is about a, well, fencing. And these boys that all go to this all-boys boarding school, and they're trying out for the fencing team. And this guy here, CG, he's like super good, but he's also an ass. And then there's another character in here called Aiden, who's also an ass. He's a bit of a man whore, and he's like the playboy of the group. And then you have like another one that's the illegitimate child of like a superstar in the fencing world, and he's just wanting to prove himself up against the rival school where the legitimate child of this fencing superstar goes. Anyway, like I said, 3 stars. I'm going to see about getting the next one from my library because I don't know that I want to buy it just yet. But I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was just okay. So 3 stars. It is Friday, September 24th, and I have completed one more book. I finished The Great American Whatever by Tim Federle, and unfortunately, I'm giving this 2 stars. This is queer. It's a coming out story. There's a little bit of a male-male romance in here. That's pretty much where the good in this ends for me. In reference to the male-male romance, wasn't really feeling it. It was very awkward, very short-lived. There were some parts that were cute and sweet, but there was a lot that was just weird. And this follows a boy who, his sister died in a car accident 6 months ago, and pretty much hasn't left his house since then. He's practically dropped out of school, and this is him finally like leaving his house and doing things. And he goes to a party and meets up with this hot college boy, and then it's like, okay, I'm good to go and do whatever. And you know, this one party, this one boy made me get over everything. And the way that the death of the sister was handled throughout the whole story, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. There was like, she died in a car accident, and she ran a stop sign or a stoplight, and she ran it while she was responding to a text that he had sent, which they were in a fight, and so he had sent her a text saying something along the lines of just die already. And she went through the stop sign or stoplight or whatever while she was texting him back. And yeah, so he very much blames himself. There's a lot of guilt. There's a little bit of grief. It lacked a lot of emotion, in my opinion, throughout the entire story about the death. It just seemed very blasé a lot of the time. And also he talks about how his dad up and left and his mom is 40 and she's really let herself go and she eats all the time and she's gained so much weight, and he talks often about how big she is and things like that. And I just really, it rubbed me the wrong way. There was a lot that rubbed me the wrong way in this book, so I'm giving this 2 stars. So it is Sunday, September 26th, and I've completed 2 more books. So on Friday the 24th, I finished Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez. I love this so much, and I give it 5 stars. I feel so seen in this book and can relate so much to this book. I loved her first book, Only Mostly Devastated, but this one just, it resonated so much more with me, and 5 stars. So this follows a girl named Darcy who is bi, and she's had a crush on her best friend Brooke for many years. She also runs this sort of secret romance advice thing. It's a locker where people go and they stick a note with a tip, $10 or whatever, in an envelope and stick it in this locker. And she responds to them via email with anonymous love advice or relationship advice. And she's been doing this for years. She makes great money out of it. She loves what she's doing, but she's also harboring a secret with it because she's done something that affects her friend Brooke, and her friend Brooke doesn't know that she's the one behind this locker. And this boy named Brofman, he spots her getting the envelopes out of this locker, and he wants her help with, he wants to hire her as a coach to get his ex-girlfriend back, and to keep him from spilling the secret that she's the one in charge of this locker, she agrees to coach him and help him. And like all rom-coms, things blow up. Nothing goes as planned, and this is amazing. There's so much representation in this book, not just bi, but there's trans, there's a whole LGBTQ club, and there are so many different representations in that club. There's so many great discussions in the advice that she gives, because there's like the letters that people are writing in here, as well as the advice that she gives them. There's discussions on asexuality, there's discussions on pronouns, there's a great discussion on internalized biphobia. It's so good. I highly recommend it, and I give it 5 stars. And then yesterday I completed Anyas Ghost by Vera Broskol, and this is a graphic novel. The art's really, really cute. It's not as light and fluffy as I thought going in. It's about a girl named Anya who is running away from an embarrassing situation and finds herself falling down a well, or she falls down a well, and when she gets down there she meets a ghost that's been down there for 90 years, and this ghost wants to be her friend. In the beginning, this is a great friendship. The ghost is helping her with school, helping her get the guy, or work on getting the guy she wants, and making her more popular and all this stuff. But when Anya doesn't really want this ghost around quite so much anymore, things get pretty creepy, and I enjoyed it, and I'm gonna give it 4 stars. So it is currently Thursday, September 30th, and I have completed 3 more books. So on Tuesday the 28th, I completed The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. This is a historical fiction set in World War II time. It is based on real events and real people for the most part. Granted, it is fiction, and the author did an amazing job filling in where she couldn't know what actually was going on. But this was done so incredibly well. I found it super interesting, super informative, and I very much enjoyed it. We have 3 main characters. These are the women that are the code breakers for Bletchley Park. This is set in England, and they're trying to break the Nazi codes and stuff. And one of them is even on the autism spectrum, I believe, and they're just brilliant at what they do. There's also this story going on about a traitor, and my battery is flashing. Hold on. Okay, sorry if there was an angle change. Anyway, so there's a traitor somewhere that's working at Bletchley Park that is selling secrets, telling how codes are being broken, whatever. And one of these women end up taking the fall for it and getting put into an asylum, where this is now like 7 years later. She's facing getting ready to get a lobotomy, and she's written these other 2 women asking them for help her get out of there, and that they owe her. And at this point, 7 years in the future, none of these women are friends, where back when they started, they were all great friends. Now they're not friends at all. They don't want to even see each other. But when she sends them a coded letter asking for help, they begrudgingly go to help her. There's also a countdown to the royal wedding between, she was at the time Princess Elizabeth, now Queen Elizabeth, and Philip. And one of the characters that's a code breaker is based on Philip's ex-girlfriend, who was also a code breaker, both named Asla. And yeah, this is amazing. It was written so incredibly well. Great storytelling. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and I give it 4.5 stars. Also on Tuesday the 28th, I completed Don't You Forget About Me by Kate Karis Quinn. This book was weird. This book was very, very weird. Just to let you know, this is what I wrote to my friend Clint right after finishing this. I said, this book was a complete and total brain fuck, and I think I like it. Yeah, it was weird and trippy and had me repeatedly thinking, what the fuck is going on? But in a good way. Yeah, there's magical realism. There's this town where nobody ever gets sick, nobody dies of natural causes, and they live hundreds of years. And this man named Lockman Gardner, he stumbled across this village and kind of took it over, named it Gardnerville, and kind of established himself as the leader. And the things that he started doing to this town did start changing things, and so people are growing older at a much slower rate, though they're still living hundreds of years, but they are starting to grow older, and more people are being brought into this town, and we're having kids grow up, and something starts happening. And the kids between the ages of 13 to 18, they start developing these supernatural abilities. Sometimes they might not even realize that they have them until it's too late, because this magic, this energy, whatever it is, kind of just builds up, and every 4 years somebody explodes. Not literally, I mean, I guess they could literally, but figuratively, they get super emotional and do something that just causes mass death. Our main character, her sister Piper, had a 4th year experience where she led a whole bunch of people off this bridge, and a lot of them died. And when these 4th year things happen like this, the child that did whatever, they get sent to this reformatory, and they're there for a certain amount of time based on if it was a 4th year or 3rd year. Because like if an explosion happens in a 2nd year, then it's not anything as severe as what happens in the 4th year. But they still get sent to the reformatory. And when they come out of the reformatory, they are a shell of themselves. And our main character believes that her sister is in the reformatory and she's got to find a way to get her out and save her. This is really, really, really good, but really, really, really weird. And I'm gonna give it 4 stars. And then today I finished The Mark of Athena by Rick Riordan. This is the 3rd book in the Heroes of Olympus series. I can't say too much about it because it is the 3rd book, but I will say that this one has definitely been my favorite out of this series so far. I liked that we had all of our group kind of come together and it's not too many different perspectives going on. This was so much fun. There was so much humor in here as well. And adventure and high stakes. I personally loved what Annabeth did with the Weaver, how she outsmarted the Weaver. That was amazing. And I'm thoroughly enjoying reading these books. And I'm gonna give this 4 stars. So these are all 20 books that I read in September. Wow. Have you guys read any of them? Did you like them? Did you not? Comment down below and let me know. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you. Bye!